R.I.C.H coming right back at you. This conversation is not about hate. It's about precision. Michael Eric Dyson went on a podcast and compared Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us to the rhetoric of Donald Trump. He said the song carries a us versus them energy that mirrors immigration profiling. He implied that Kendrick was trying to revoke Drake's black card. Now hold up. This is a heavy comparison. To equate rap beef with political nationalism is not a light analogy. And when you make that move, you better be precise.
I remember I worked at Fox Sports and there was a big argument between DeMarco Farr. You remember Brian Cox? Yeah, as DeMarco Farr walked away, we're like, are you cool? And he said to us, man, fuck him, he's half. And I was like, that exists? Like there was a whole...
That internal, Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Most people would acknowledge Kendrick as genius, but not Drake, right? Drake is commercially viable. He's a monster. He sells records. But is he as deep?
There's a genius to that, though.
Oh, come on, bro. You understand that. Drake is being indicted by Kendrick Lamar, implicitly and explicitly, not like us. The song is the song, whatever you think about it. But the notion itself, big distinction, us versus them. And they're trying to de-black Drake. Right? Oh, he's not really black because he grew up in Canada. I grew up in Compton. Bro, you're reducing blackness to Compton? Did you not know that black people fled America going to Canada to escape the iron tyranny of enslavement? And he ain't black. His daddy is black. He went to Memphis every summer. The Memphis Horns fill his music, the first albums Drake made. His grandmama babysat Aretha Franklin. Really? And his uncle is Larry Graham from Sly and the Family Stone. How much, what black card he got to show? And on his album, Damn, that won the Pulitzer Prize, I like to remind the acolytes of Mr. Lamar that he says, I ain't black, don't call me black no more, because he was into black Hebrew stuff. And Drake said, light skin, but still a dark N-word. So I'm saying, that's your God? So to me, yeah, that still exists. You're not as black as me. You're not as righteous as me. What did he say? You're not a colleague, you're a colonizer. What other figure in black music has ever been called a colonizer? Because he experiments widely with music. Kendrick, who put you on tour first? Oh, it was a guy named Drake. So this inability to not only have gratitude for where you came from, but to understand blackness is far deeper and more exhaustive than any one nationality or race or people.
Now, let's deal with this carefully. Kendrick did not question Drake's DNA. He questioned his positioning. Those are two different things. No one is debating who Drake's father is. No one is debating his family tree. We are talking about upbringing. We are talking about cultural posture. We're talking about how you present yourself. That's not racial profiling. That's an authenticity critique. He mentioned black Americans who fled to Canada. All of that is true, but that is heritage. Hip-hop has never been built on heritage alone. It has been built on lived experience. And that's the difference that's being missed or intentionally blurred. When Kendrick said not like us, he wasn't trying to say you ain't black. He was saying you are not of this experience. That's two different things. And here's the line that made me really pause. On Certified Lover Boy, Drake had a line about sleeping with a woman and sending her back to the hood. And for some reason, that line sat different with me. Because when you grow up around those women, when those women are your sisters and your aunties, you don't talk about them like a tourist. That line sounded like observation to me, not participation. And that's where my tension lives. This ain't about who Drake is related to. It's about whether or not he sometimes performs an aura that doesn't match his foundation. That is a fair cultural critique. What is not fair is reducing that critique to Trumpism. Trump's rhetoric was about exclusion from national belonging. Kendrick's rhetoric was about hip-hop alignment. One is about citizenship and the other one is about cultural code. And when an intellectual collapses those two things, it feels like the argument is reaching for moral weight instead of dealing with artistic context. This argument was never about removing Drake from blackness. It was about questioning whether he moves as a student of the culture or opportunist of the culture. Now we gotta deal with the word that makes everybody uncomfortable. Upbringing. Not bloodline, not DNA, upbringing. Hip-hop has never been a genetic club. It's always been a cultural one. You don't earn respect by family tree. You earn it by proximity to the struggle, by participation in the code, by understanding what certain words cost. And that is the difference that Michael Eric Dyson just rolled past. When he defended Drake by listing his relatives, by talking about Memphis Summers, he made a heritage argument. Kendrick was making a cultural argument. Once again, they are not the same. You can have the black heritage and still be culturally misaligned. That is not erasure. That is observation. When Not Like Us hit, it resonated because it touched a feeling that some people had quietly held. Not about Drake's race, but about his posture, about his different accents, about the adaptation to whatever region was hot, about the way he can dip in Atlanta, dip in the UK, dip into the Caribbean, and then come back like a cultural chameleon. Some called it versatility, others called it strategy. Kendrick called it misalignment. And here's the hard truth. Hip-hop is sensitive to performance. It can smell when somebody is studying the culture instead of living the culture. Now, that don't make Drake less black, but let's be clear. This is not about who he is biologically. This is about who he moves like. And when Dyson compares that to Trump's immigration rhetoric, it feels like an intellectual overreach. Trump said, you don't belong in this country. Kendrick said, you don't move like this circle. One is policy, one is culture. And if we can't tell the difference between national exclusion and hip-hop alignment, then we collapse in two very different conversations for the sake of drama. Now we have to deal with the part that makes this whole argument collapse. If Not Like Us was just racial gatekeeping, if it was just about stripping away a man's blackness, why did it hit the way it did? Why did it move the culture the way it did? Why did people, black and white people, rap it word for word without feeling like their own identity was being policed? Because it wasn't about biology. It was about belonging. It was about a vibe. It was about whether somebody feels like they from the house or they just visiting it. And that is a cultural conversation, not a racial exclusionary one. Michael Eric Dyson is a brilliant man. No one can deny that. But intellectual brilliance does not make you infallible. When he framed this as Trump-esque, he added moral weight that does not match the context. Trump's rhetoric was about nationhood, borders, citizenship, who deserves to be here. Kendrick's record was about hip-hop credibility, about alignment, about whether someone understands the code or they just playing it. Those are not equivalent arguments. And here's what it really matters. Hip-hop has always challenged authenticity. It challenged MC Hammer when he got too polished. It challenged Ice Baby when it felt too derivative. It challenged commercialization every single era. So when Kendrick says Not Like Us, he's participating in a tradition of testing alignment. Not testing skin color, not testing family tree, testing whether you move in a way that feels rooted to the culture. And that's why this song was not heard as racial exclusion. It was heard as a cultural call-out. Now, you can disagree with the call-out, you can think it was too harsh, you can think it was unfair, but you don't get to reduce it to nationalism. Don't collapse hip-hop policing authenticity into immigration rhetoric. That's not a fair comparison. And when an academic makes that leap, it feels like the degree is doing more dramatic work than the culture itself. This beef was never about who was blacker. It was about who was grounded. And until you can separate ancestry from alignment, you're going to keep misreading what that song actually did. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, establish rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.